Welcome to the Post Shift Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC. What is happening, Post Shift Podcast? Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. It's been a while since I've done one of these because I've been doing the Fever Tree seminars that have been turned into podcasts, and I've been doing a podcast a day, Monday to Friday for forever, really. Feels like forever, I think for 4 or 5 weeks now. Episode Monday to Friday, I hope you're getting a lot of value from that. It's super important for me to get you the right information instead of it going through social media and whispers and passing bottles and messages and bottles and whatnot. So I like to try and get you as much information as possible the right way. Couple of things. Tomorrow I am actually taking over Liquor.com's Instagram page, so follow me there. I've been trying to post as much stuff that I found from associations and organizations helping during COVID. On my private social media, on SHC social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, everywhere. If you haven't seen any of the information, you're obviously not following me hard enough. But as we start rolling into this reopening of restaurants here in Canada, I've tried to reach out to a couple of organizations, which I may do some supplementary podcasts to sort of keep bringing you stuff, because it is so fluid. I'm going to start this whole podcast out by saying that everything I'm about to tell you is fluid, dependent on how the government sees the pandemic going. So they may, like, this stuff is getting released now, but it may be pushed back a week because some yahoos, like in Vancouver over the weekend, decided to all go down to the beach and all catch COVID, because that's what happened. Dr. Henry here on the West Coast said that Phase 1 of reopening is starting, and then everybody's like, hey, we should all have barbecues and hang out and cuddle and hold hands and kiss. And I'm like, yeah, but no, you shouldn't be doing that. It's Phase 1. That's why it's called Phase 1. It's not called Phase 2.5. It's called Phase 1. You should be listening. So this is very fluid based on the fact that if we get a whole bunch of new cases, this shit's going to get pulled back. So, big word out there. Don't be a freaking dick. Plain and freaking simple. Don't be a dick. Stay at home for a bit longer. Keep socially distancing. If I see you down the park and there's 7 of you, chances of you all living in the same house, I may throw something at you. I want restaurants to get started as much as the next freaking person. But now, after my little rant of, like, don't be a dick, here's a couple of things I know. Here in BC, anyway, now this is sort of coming down from federal to provincial and then down to the organization. So people are like, well, they announced it today. Why aren't they putting it into play tomorrow? It's got to go through the process, and you have to admit the government across the country has been fantastic in bringing in new legislation for money for employees, packages for businesses to apply for. There's been a ton of stuff. You can look at your pros and cons, but we're talking about the thing only taking. We've been in this for less than 3 months now. For a government to run that quickly, it's not easy. So I think we got to give a little tip to the hat to the government for doing what they've been able to do over the last little while. Now let's kick it off. So May 19th, people are saying that's when everything's going to reopen. It is not May 19th. Let me reiterate this. May 19th is not the reopening of restaurants. May 19th is the day that the government is going to start looking at the rollout and the feasibility of reopening restaurants. May 19th is not when we're reopening. I've seen so many people saying to get ready to reopen their restaurant in 8 days. It's not happening that way. It is when the government is going to start really putting the screws down onto real plans to get us reopened in the province. Now, it's very similar across the country. I see little spikes here and there, Quebec and so on and so forth. But May 19th is when they're going to think. So again, if there's a whole bunch of new cases, all this goes out the window. So please, keep social distancing. Now, I have heard a few things. I think I'm going to get into what the BCRFA have sent me, like their 5 top points, because I've got the 5 top points in front of me. I tried to get Restaurants Canada Enable BC. Unfortunately, I didn't get it before I screened, but I may just put this into some into some posts and put it up online so that we can sort of get it out there. Patio letters to municipalities has been a big one. Patios are the keys to the key element to the opening letters to the province. So municipalities are coming on board with doing open air patios and shutting down streets, very European style open air patio areas, which I think is going to be fantastic. I'm hoping that people behave themselves and don't take this too aggressively and spoil it for everybody, but I really think patios and expanded patios is really going to change the legislation and the game here in BC. A lot of the things that they've changed to go alcohol, so on and so forth, may still hang around after this is over, which is super important. This could be game changer. This could be a post-COVID game changer. WorkSafe BC, BCRFA, the health departments are all working together on who does what, who has jurisdiction over who, everybody else. BCRFA is an association that puts forth things. WorkSafe puts into like the practices, and then the health departments, the health inspectors sort of police it. Police is a rough word, but that. So consumer confidence is a big one too. So BCRFA is putting a whole bunch of money and branding behind this sort of seal of approval to restaurants to sort of bring back customer confidence. I think that's the one key piece that a lot of restaurants are missing out on right now, is that customer confidence is going to take a really long time to bring back to where it should be. And I really want you guys to really think about this. Be consumer centric and see what your customers really want. I know you guys want to get back into business. I know you want to hire back your staff. I know you want to get rolling again. But really think about how your consumers are going to see that and what they want. Have them in the conversation. It's just the three triangle that I always talk about. Three-side triangle. The guest, you, and your staff. Though that three-side triangle has to be the same size. And it's something you really need to think about. Consumer confidence is going to be a big wane. I've heard everything from 38% to 65% of consumers aren't comfortable going back to restaurants yet. This is huge. So please talk to your customers, put out a survey, see what they really, really want from your venue. I think SurveyMonkey and that sort of thing, do it, see how it pans out, see where the deficits are, and see how you can fix those. Restaurant opening dates, June 1st, May 19th. Again, this is BCRFA, so discussion around the subject with respect to restaurant preparedness, enough information for operators to actually operate, and enough consumer confidence for enough business. It's a big one. You can do everything in the world to reopen, but if consumers aren't confident in what you've done, because WorkSafe hasn't signed off, or BCRFA aren't backing it, or the health inspector said no, then you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot. You can't pay your bills. You can be open as much as you want, but if you're empty, it's a lose-lose. So the opening dates are still, like I said at the very beginning, May 19th, June 1st. I'm sort of leaning towards the June 1st mark. I think June 1st is going to be closer to the date that we're sort of leaning into, because that's going to give enough time. That's about 20 days, 3 weeks from now. That's a lot of time to get some WorkSafe BC stuff into play and that sort of stuff. And the big one, awaiting recommendations of 50% versus 50 people maximum. Large party maximum of 10 people. Now, this is very super subjective. So there's things that you can't have more than 50 people in a venue, but if you have a 350-seat venue, 50 people doesn't make sense. So 50% occupancy over 50 people maximum. So there's a little bit of public large groups as well as venue large groups is a play there. And then large party maximum of 10 people. Now, if you are a restaurant, you can set, as long as it doesn't go over that threshold, you can set where you want to sit. So if you want to say no to large parties for the foreseeable future, you're quite well in your right to do that. If you only want 2 tops and that sort of thing, or 4 tops, you're quite welcome to do that. You don't need to take 10 people. You do not need to take 6 people. So as long as you don't go over those thresholds, you can really, really play in that sort of area. Now, don't get me wrong, 50% occupancy is shit, okay? We all know that, but we need to get over this hump. We've flattened the curve as well as we can. We need to get over this hump. Once we get over this hump, we really do not want, this is the big thing, I'm going to preface everything I'm saying right now, we do not want a second outbreak as bad as this one again in fall, because we're talking about Christmas season. Shut down, lockdown, everybody's inside again for Christmas season. Nobody wants this. So let's make sure that we're being smart, ease into it, and go from there. One thing I heard today from sort of a WorkSafe BC health inspector VHA sort of thing from a good friend of mine who's really plugged in. I want to give a shout out to Mo Blake. Don't care if you don't care if I give you a shout out. Mo Blake's been fantastic here in Victoria. Is final inspections. There is talk about VHA and health inspectors having final inspections before you open to make sure you stick inside the mandated rules and guidelines set out by WorkSafe BC. So WorkSafe BC looks after you as an employer, but also your employees. So with the COVID being a pandemic and being a virus, WorkSafe BC is also covering employees to make sure they're safe. They don't go home sick or get sick from your working environment. So there's going to be again, it goes back to the freaking three-sided triangle. So follow the triangle. That's all I have right now. I think I've given a whole bunch of advice to a whole bunch of people over the last 2 weeks. It's rattling around in my head. I don't know what you've heard from me or what you've heard from other people or if you've reached out to me. But a couple of things. I think takeout and delivery is going to be a very, very large source of your revenue for the foreseeable future. Customer confidence, reduced occupancy. I think takeout and delivery needs to be put into your play. Even if it's a small takeout menu, focus on the wine, focus on your beer, so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of creative ways you can get around it. Plus, marketing your takeout. I've talked about, if you go on the Soole Hospitality Concepts Instagram, you will see that I talked about QR codes. Now, a QR code, Google it. You can literally put a QR code and stick it on your to-go box, and the customer can get their phone, scan this QR code, and it can throw it to a video on YouTube of your sushi chef making the sushi that they're eating right now. So it's about putting that connection of experience. Is it going to replace the experience that they have in your restaurant? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we're trying to slim down that gap between the experience in your restaurant and the experience they can have at home. How do you slim down that gap? Marketing, being innovative. If you want to know a whole schwackload of things, I'm giving every way for things for free. So if you ever think that I post something and say, hey, DM me, and then I'm going to whack you with a bill, I can't remember the last time I fucking invoiced a restaurant for my advice. So please just DM me if you've got any questions about it. I'd love to chat to you about it. Actually, I've got to answer an Instagram message that I got this morning that I forgot about. But that is the post-shift shot this week. I hope that this clears up a few things. It might even open up more questions. But if you're part of certain groups, watch the BCRFA. BCRFA's doing great work. Able BC here in BC, Restaurants Canada and Toronto. These three alliances, associations, organizations, advocacy groups, whatever you want to call them, are really pushing for big change. I just got a questionnaire because they're talking about giving us wholesale pricing for liquor here in BC. So things are changing, and changes happen quickly. So you've got to be plugged in, quick, take the information, put it through your brain, figure out how it works for you, and then wait for it to be put into stone by the government, and away you go. Good luck with the reopening. If you need anything, please just reach out. I'm always available, always free. Love to chat to you guys anyway. Thanks very much for the support for the podcast. I'll see you tomorrow on liquor.com. Please come by and listen. I'm going to be doing an AMA, and it's going to be a whole schwackload of stuff. It's going to be tons of fun. So have a good day, guys. You've been amazing through this COVID. We can get through this as an industry. We're in this together. Let's just power through it. We'll be fine. Oh, maybe not fine, but we'll get there. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.